Cool. So today I'm going to be talking about Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This book was sent to me by the Penguins. The Penguin. Oh, Penguin. This book was sent to me for review. They sent their little email thing out that they do, and if you're a part of their mailing list, you can just click on something and be like, I request that. And I requested this. Originally it came out in 2018, and obviously it was huge. Loads of people were talking about it. Oh, the honesty. She really gets millennials. She gets them. So I was a bit like, considering previously this year I read the book Good Material and rather enjoyed it, I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to click on that, and if they send it to me, they send it to me, and I will read it and review it, and guess what, they did. So I suppose this is a kind of like a re-release, a new hardback re-release of the book. It's got a lovely pinky bit, that's all nice, isn't it? And it's got one of those, they're pretty cool, and that's nice, isn't it? There you go. That's the re-release. I've done my job now. Not that they asked me to do anything, but I feel like, I need to show it off. So there you go. Right, so let's talk about this book, shall we? Also, before we begin, I tried really hard to sort of matchy my jumper with the lettering here. I washed this and I thought, I've nailed it. It's going to match up beautifully. It doesn't. They're two different shades. I'm not very good at fashion. So, Everything I Know About Love is a memoir, a semi-autobiographical account of Dolly Alderton's life up until the age of, 34, something like that. And, it blends, personal essays, stories, and reflections into this kind of account of her growing up and understanding love and friendship. In essence, it's a coming-of-age story. We follow Dolly from her, teen years, maybe a little bit longer, all the way up into her late 20s, and I think, early 30s-ish. There is a massive drive in this novel for the idea of friendship. In fact, spoiler alert, this book, when it really comes down to love, is not about romantic love. That's not the point at all. It is about platonic friendship love, the love of your friends and the family you choose for yourself. That being said, this would not be as popular as it was if it wasn't for a little bit of the old cheeky. So yes, there is lots of reflections on romantic love, on sex, on relationships, on dating, on online dating and all that jazz. It's packed to the gills of that as well. The novel also dives into themes of personal growth, as well as professional ambition, and just navigating what it is like to be an adult. And how terrifying that is when you're in your mid-20s and you still feel like a child. I'm just going to get this out of the way now. If you are between the ages of, say, 33 to 40, then this is a book for you. You are going to relate to this one hard, okay? Especially if you were born in the United Kingdom and have spent any time living in London. Now, I've never lived in London, but I have toured there. I've spent, upwards of around, I'd say, 8 weeks at a time staying in London, working on shows, doing things like that. And I think 2 months is long enough to say you sort of live somewhere, kind-of-ish, who knows. But, yeah, if you love London or you've lived in London and you're born within that age range, then trust me, without a doubt, even if you are a man, woman, non-binary person, you will relate to this novel in a very, very big way. Just the references to pop culture, a kind of social commentary, and even technology used within the book. They're just, it's absolutely made for someone who was kind of born at that time. And as I said, it's kind of a negative, but I'll explain why later. So, what did I like and what didn't I like? What I liked. I really do enjoy Dolly Alderton's writing. I think it is very, very honest and very candid, and I think it's very easy to relate to what she's saying. I think the pacing is dealt with really, really well. I whipped through this novel. I think it's nearly 500 pages, and I did it so quickly. And that's just because, she's a good writer. It flows really nicely. It doesn't sort of push you too much. It's not poetic in any way whatsoever. And as far as the reflections are concerned, again, I'm going to mention those in my kind of negatives. They could be pushed further. But overall, as far as memoirs are concerned, it is ticking a lot of boxes. I've prattled on many times before that when reading a memoir, it's really important for me for the author to reflect, to try and understand why they felt the way they did in one certain moment and how that relates to the way they feel now. I always love that kind of argument that the author is having with themselves in memoirs. I don't like a memoir that just reads like a piece of fiction. And I feel like she does that in this. Not anywhere to the extent that I would want her to, but she does do that in this. There is a lot of reflection taking place. And again, I am in the sweet spot of the age that Dolly Alderton is. I think I'm a couple of years older than her. So I absolutely relate to a lot of stuff that she is exploring. The book is also very funny. Well, I say very funny, it's funny. It's packed with humour and wit, and some of those jokes you just go, huh, and some of them actually really hit home. But I feel like Dolly Alderton is able to blend that humour within the kind of more, I would say, the more deeper moments, but never that this book goes particularly deep. But there are deeper sections of this writing, and she is able to blend that kind of humour within the sort of darker themes really well. I actually really enjoyed when the penny finally dropped and I realised this was a novel about friendship, love, not romantic love, how well she explores the ideas and importance of friends in your life. She stresses it a lot, and I feel like she captured that friendship really, really well, and I really enjoyed that the novel was striving to point that out to the reader. And as I whipped through this book pretty quickly, it must mean I was really engaged, surely. I think like everything Dolly chose to talk about, the aspects of her life and the things that she chose to sort of pinpoint and zone in on, were interesting. They were interesting. The stories, the little moments and the recipes she includes in there. It's not a conventional novel. It's sort of, the timeline switches around a lot. The format in which she's playing with switches around a lot. And all of these things, these structural things and these stylistic choices, they all work. They all kept me engaged and they all felt sort of authentic to her voice. And finally, I think there are many aspects of Dolly's experience, even though it is one of quite a lot of privilege, there are many aspects of Dolly's experience that I think most will be able to relate to, and I related to. I do feel like she has captured sort of what it's like being a young adult in the early 2000s rather well. Yeah, I related, and I was like, yeah, I think you got that right. What didn't I like? So I would be really intrigued, really intrigued to hear from any commenters about how you felt about this book if you are not a millennial. So the older generation or younger generations, if you watch this channel, if you watch my reviews, what did you make of this book? Because personally, I feel like you are going to get nothing from this book. Nothing whatsoever. I don't know. I think the nostalgia of living through that moment and being in that moment holds a lot of this book's power. And I'm really interested, if you were born outside of that generation, whether this is just going to seem incredibly self-indulgent. Now, of course it is. A memoir is always going to be self-indulgent. It's a person talking about, look at me, look at what I did, look at what I think about things. However, yeah, I am wondering if it's going to work for people who weren't born at that time. So please, in the comments below. But I'm putting it as a negative because I think it is too aimed at millennials. It is too aimed at Dolly Alderton's own generation. And I feel like there's not enough being done within the writing and what she's exploring to push to a kind of universality through time of things relating. So, yeah, I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I just think it's too centered in on one kind of generation of people. Next thing that I didn't quite like is it just repeats itself a lot. Now, I know life does in its 20s, especially if you're living in a city. Your life is made up of working and then going out as much as physically possible and then trying to have sex as much as physically possible. That is your 20s in a nutshell. And also, career, trying to strive sort of thing. But the novel repeats itself and you have to be willing to be like, okay, that's it. This is just going to be a different take on another date. This is going to be a different take on another situation in which she goes out and gets horrendously drunk. And most of the stories within this are going that vein. And they're truthful to what it's like living in your 20s, but there is an element of me going, it's a little repetitive. And my final dislike is this book kind of, at times, it sort of skirts around the edges of being a little bit deep. It skirts around the edges of death and grief and exploring those things and what friends need to do to back up friends in those situations. One of Dolly Alderton's friends loses their sister and she sort of has to be there for her to help her pick up the pieces. But I feel like there's lots of areas of this novel that kind of skirt around these ideas of what it's like to be a young adult trying to understand the world. And I think it lightheartedly plays on it too much. And I think that very much shows Dolly Alderton's privilege. I think there are a lot of things that she's talking about that money and access have just allowed her to do very, very easily. Very, very easily. And that there are many things within this novel which, if she was thinking with a wider lens and maybe pushing a little bit past her own experience and trying to think further than that, she might have been able to make more of an impact and say more things, especially about the industry she works in, than she does. It's not deep enough. It doesn't think wide enough. and she had the opportunity to do that, and she didn't. So that's a big hit for me. I feel like, yeah, there's nothing worse than someone not understanding their privilege. Do you know what I mean? Like, of course, like if you have privilege, well, of course you're gonna fucking use it. Like, what, you'll be an idiot not to. That's the point. Do you know what I mean? But understand that you have it. Understand that it exists, and that you benefit from that. And you don't have to say sorry for it at all. You don't have to say sorry for it. You just have to acknowledge it. And I don't think Dolly does in one single moment in this book. I could be wrong, but yeah. So worth thinking about. Worth thinking about. Doesn't stop me liking her writing. Doesn't stop me liking her. I really enjoy good material. I think she's a good writer. Doesn't stop any of those things. Something to think about. Overall, everything I know about love is very witty all the way through. It was a fun read. I ripped through it incredibly quickly, and there were many, many things throughout it that I was able to really relate to, and I was able to start up conversations with old friends about those kind of things, and we all went, memory lane, and it was really nice. I think, you know, if you're a millennial, then you are going to enjoy this book. And I think Dolly Alderton has captured what it was like growing up, or, you know, living in the city in your 20s and everything that comes with that. I think she's done a good job. Not a great job. She's done a good job. I'm giving Everything I Know About Love 3 stars out of 5. It's a good book, but nothing more than that. I can totally understand why in 2018 this book blew up and everyone went so crazy about it, because Dolly Alderton's a good writer with a clear voice and a vision for what she was trying to do, and it is really, really relatable. So yeah, I did prefer a good material, which I listened to on audiobook earlier this year. I did prefer that to this, but, you know, two different things. That's a piece of fiction, this is a memoir, hard to compare them. But yeah, so anyway, have you read this book? And if so, what did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please let me know in the comments below. I want to thank the old penguins for sending it over to me. It's nice to have a very pretty looking hardback on the shelf, even if I have packed away all my books. Yeah, I hope you're well. I hope you're enjoying whatever you might be reading. And I'll see you all on the next one.